Good morning and welcome to another episode of Check Me Out. And this is a good one this morning. If you are an e-commerce brand, I've got Chris Tomash here from Brand Nation. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, how are you?
Good, good. Hey, so e-commerce is almost, in fact, pretty much as important when you're starting out a food brand as retail. A lot of people kind of go, retail is my big goal, but we forget about how many Kiwis and people around the world actually really value the e-commerce experience, and that is just such a great channel to actually get your products out there and get the credibility and the social credibility and all that jazz. And I couldn't think of anyone better to speak to about this because you guys have been doing this a while.
Yeah, absolutely. It also gives the consumer diversity because they get to choose from, I suppose, a lot of different brands. General retailers, they'll have the top five brands in a category, which excludes the innovator
Yeah.
to a certain degree. So we find that we work with a lot of innovative companies that are thriving in e-commerce, but would struggle to get a listing in a supermarket.
Yeah, awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and then a little bit about Brand Nation?
Yep, absolutely. So I've owned businesses over on and off over my, I suppose, career, and would sold about 4 years ago. My business partner and I had sold a business, and we were working out the next step. And one of my best mates, Stephen, he has worked with me for about 20 odd years, and we decided to put together a contract manufacturer of food products, dry food blends, but without barriers to entry, without huge minimum order quantities, and almost like a bit of an incubator. We
Awesome.
also didn't, we tried to pull I suppose, the traditional pricing model back, and we've always had this theory that small brands and startups shouldn't be taxed by paying more than they should for a production run. So if something costs you $20 to build, if you're running 5,000 units at a time, when you build 100 units, if you had to price it, if your cost price was $30, you'd never actually succeed and you'd never get to 5,000. So we were sort of trying to break down the barriers to entry for a lot of people.
Awesome. And I think that's really important because one of the things I notice when you're talking about branding and actually is that people think that contract manufacturers and all kinds of packaging and things like that are out of their reach because we all get told these massive MOQs because that's usually the way that it's done offshore. But if you look here in New Zealand and you know, like people to come and find people like yourselves, you can actually find that there are options available to get that scale, that smaller scale instead of the really big scale.
Yep, absolutely. And we've even, I suppose, broken down the myth that if you want custom, beautiful packaging from China, you have to buy huge
Yeah.
MOQs. Whereas some of the brands that you've got in the background there have started out with an MOQ of 1,000 units of packaging out of China.
Yeah.
Um, so I suppose one of your most successful brands that we work with, which is now a global brand, their first manufacturing run was 75 units only,
Yeah.
times three variants. So to get them into the market, for them to launch, they air freighted over some packaging. We filled 75 units while the sea freight was coming in. And now that's an enormous success, which wouldn't be that case if they had to do a 1,000 unit run size or a 5,000 unit run size.
Yeah. Awesome. So what in your opinion, what makes a really good e-commerce brand?
I think it's the personality and also the life transition of certain people. So it's really authentic. So we see quite a few transitions when brand owners become mums, and they transition their brand through their brand story, or they launch a brand to suit that brand story as well.
Yeah, cool, cool. And what do you think it's important for in that, you know, you talk about brand story and that, how is that best displayed online in the e-commerce kind of world, the digital world?
Uh, that's a tough one. I suppose it's just great
Yeah,
content, and authentic content. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, cool. Um, I've got my little list of questions sitting beside me here.
Yeah, so
um,
that's probably the manufacturing side, is that's where we started out, and
yeah,
about 4 years ago, and then it'd be around 3 years ago, one of our brands came to us and asked them to do 3PL for them because they weren't getting a personalized service from their actual contract manufacturer, sorry, actual 3PL. There are a lot of larger 3PLs that are used to enormous bulk movements, lots of pallets, and then they tried to move small cartons, and it's just not the same. It's not the same worker in a warehouse, and I suppose the attention to detail and the customization isn't there.
yeah,
So
and you mentioned attention to detail and customization there, which I know is something that you guys and that we've spoken about before is really, really important. And you say you're not just like a 3PL. 3PL, for those that don't know, is a third party logistics. So somebody that can send out your packaging for you so you don't have to have it all sitting at home or in your own warehouse. Um, where was I going with that question? We talk about the unboxing experience.
yeah, yeah.
And I know that that's very important to you guys. So what is it that defines the unboxing experience for you?
I suppose when a brand comes in and they haven't customized yet, we give them some guidance, some supplier details to have the right style of packaging that works with their branding. And at the moment, it's a lot of eco products.
Mm.
Um, we have small volume manufacturers that will print custom printed boxes for them, so that we're packing not into brown boxes but into their own box, and it just lifts them up a level. Having a branded box turn up to the customer, a
Yeah.
postcard in there, a postcard that evolves every few months as well, so it doesn't stay stagnant. And it's just working with the brand owner to make sure that's a customized experience for their product.
Yeah, because it's a massive missed opportunity for branding, isn't it? When you're just sending a brown box out to people, because if you think about the fact that that box might sit on somebody's doorstep in the view of other people and might catch the eye, or used it for an influencer, who can, pick up the box, and from the get go, they've got branding in the picture. So it is a missed opportunity not to look. And there's so many other like great little ways that you can put your branding on a box, like a sticker or something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, so there's really awesome opportunities for that.
100%, and everyone's a potential consumer as well. So the my example is I went into the New Zealand Post sorting centre, and sorry, screen's just gone off. A few years ago, and I was sort of working in there alongside this general staff, just trying to get a look and a feel for how fast we can get our customers' boxes onto their sorting conveyor. And one of them said, "Oh, what do you do?" And I said, "We do 3PL for this brand." And he said, "I keep seeing those boxes come past every day." And that's a potential consumer. It's not just I suppose everyone in the supply chain that can get influenced by that branding on that package.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that is definitely a great point to make, that everybody is a potential consumer. And I like the fact that you guys, you can do the contract manufacturing side of things. And if we talk about that for a second, you say that you guys do powdered goods. So I think a lot of people wouldn't realize that there are the contract manufacturers. You actually have to kind of shop around a little bit, because it really depends on what your product is as to who you use. So if you could give like a couple of tips or questions or things to look out for when searching for a contract manufacturer, what would they be?
It's initially finding the flexibility that you need, especially with a smaller or a startup brand.
Hmm.
Being able to, I suppose for us, if we see that a customer is overpaying for ingredients, we'll push back on the supplier. I suppose it's having I suppose both of our businesses are engines behind the brands that we work with. So we know that if we help them grow, that will grow as well. So I think the main thing is having someone that helps you uh, drive through the roadblocks.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's awesome.
it's encouragement, because it's moving from employment into being an entrepreneur, having your own brand is a pretty lonely time. And a lot of people are trying to go from step 1 to step 10 and not knowing what's in between. So
Yeah.
the more assistance you can get from good people that really encourage what you're doing, the better, the faster you'll launch, and the better off you'll be as you transition through I suppose the brand's journey.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's partly why that I've done this recording, this YouTube channel, and that is because, like, you are right, there's a lot of darkness between step 1 and step 10. And so talking to people and just saying, hey, look, it's actually okay to ask questions and find really good people to work with, and you will get there. So that's really cool. Have you noticed, obviously we've just been through COVID, and food businesses were somewhat unaffected by that because everybody had to eat and everybody was at home. So it was a great time for e-commerce. But have you noticed any trends or any changes since we've come out of COVID, like around what people are buying or how much they're buying from e-commerce? And because you would obviously see a lot of what goes out the door with the 3PL and what people are manufacturing.
Yep. I think certain categories have evolved really well. The interesting categories, mushroom categories seem to be thriving. Lactation products seem to be thriving. Our brands are all very active, so it's almost that they're not recession proof, but they're growing at a pace that allows them not to feel the pain points of I suppose lockdowns, COVID, and potentially a recession.
Mm, cool, cool. And what, if any, would you have advice for people? Actually, we'll try and rephrase that question. Say, are there any kind of common mistakes that people make that you've seen, that come to you? Maybe they've been to another 3PL, or maybe they've been to another manufacturer, or anything. Are any kind of common errors that you see startups making when they come to do this sort of next valuable step in their journey?
I think it's not mistakes that they make as such, but it's again the roadblockers. I use that
Mm,
word a lot.
yeah.
There are a lot of roadblockers, and it's very easy for people to get disillusioned without going um, and looking for another answer to the question.
Mm,
Yeah, and that's where I think most brands do end up falling down or not being able to launch because it gets dragged on. The launch gets dragged on, and they chew up too much cash trying to get to launch date.
right. Yeah. And I think a lot of the times, those launch dates can be somewhat unrealistic, but it is what you don't know. You don't know, right? And so you might have a firm date in your mind and go, yeah, this is the date that I want to learn, but the date which I want to launch. But as long as you remain flexible, I think that's one of the things that seems to be a common theme. The more and more I talk to people on this channel, is that flexibility around food businesses seems to be the key to get ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And do you have any advice, or anyone out there that's for starting an e-commerce brand, any kind of thoughts or bits of wisdom that you've picked up along the way?
I think it's just getting a good network of people behind you, encouraging people, and yeah, and then driving forward as fast as you can. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Amazing. Oh, perfect. Well, I think we've hit the nail on the head. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Chris. Hopefully we'll chat again soon. I'd love to have a little more in-depth chat about contract manufacturing eventually, but we'll save that for another episode. So thank you so much for your time.